Is there anything more terrifying than sending your child to play and never seeing them again? How can we protect our children from the unimaginable? Every year, thousands of children go missing, leaving devastated families and communities in anguish. Join us as we unravel the mysteries behind these frightening disappearances. Andrew Gosden, a 14-year-old student at Macaulay Catholic High School, was known for his shyness and quiet demeanor. Despite his reserved nature, Andrew was a gifted mathematician with a deep passion for metal music and video games. His parents described him as a home bird, rarely venturing out without a specific reason. His unexpected disappearance has left a void in their hearts, raising the question, what could have driven this bright, introverted young man to leave everything behind? Andrew's parents, Kevin and Glennis, remembered him as a responsible and reliable teenager. He had a 100% attendance record at school and was part of the Young Gifted and Talented program. But Andrew had been acting strangely in the days leading up to his disappearance. He had broken his routine twice, telling his parents he walked home from school instead of taking the bus. As the summer holidays ended, Andrew's family thought nothing of his slight changes in behavior. On September 14, 2007, Andrew's family noticed he struggled to wake up. His mother recalled this was unusual, as he was an early bird who always woke up on time. Andrew's father, Kevin, also described the morning as uneventful, but little did they know that their lives would change forever. Andrew left his house at 8:05 a.m., witnessed by family friend Reverend Alan Murray, who saw him walking across the local park to his usual bus stop. But instead of boarding the bus, Andrew diverted from his regular route, walked to a nearby cash machine, and withdrew 200 Great Britain pounds from his bank account. He then returned home, changed out of his school uniform, and put on casual clothes. His parents, who were at work, were unaware of his unusual behavior, under the assumption that he would be getting ready for school at that time. At 8:30 a.m., Andrew left his house again in Doncaster, South Yorkshire, carrying a bag with his PlayStation portable console, wallet and keys. He walked to Doncaster railway station and bought a one-way ticket to London. The ticket seller remembered Andrew, recalling that he had refused a return ticket despite it being only 5 pence more. As the train departed for London, Andrew's family remained oblivious to his plans. They thought he was at school, unaware their son was embarking on a journey that would change their lives forever. At 11:20 a.m., he arrived at King's Cross Station in London. At 11:25 a.m., he was captured on CCTV leaving the station's main entrance. This was the last confirmed sighting of him. Andrew's family reported that he was missing when he failed to return home that evening and was nowhere to be found. The following police investigation revealed that Andrew had not been seen or heard from since his arrival in London. His disappearance sparked a nationwide search, with numerous appeals for information and sightings. But as the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, hope began to fade. As the investigation continued, detectives considered various possibilities, including the possibility that Andrew had met someone online or had been a victim of trafficking. However, there was no concrete evidence to support these claims. In December 2021, detectives investigating Andrew's disappearance made a breakthrough. They arrested 2 men on suspicion of kidnapping and human trafficking in Andrew's case. The news sparked hope that Andrew's disappearance might finally be solved. However, the arrests ultimately proved to be a false lead. After further investigation, the men were released and later eliminated from the inquiry. The police continued to follow up on new leads, but the case remained unsolved. Andrew's family has expressed frustration and disappointment with the investigation, feeling that some leads were not thoroughly examined. They have also criticized the police for focusing on investigating the family rather than pursuing other avenues of inquiry. Despite the setbacks, Andrew's family remains determined to find out what happened to him. They continue to appeal for information and to keep his memory alive, hoping that one day they will get the answers they so desperately seek. Perry Cohen and Austin Stephanos, both 14-year-old friends from Tequesta, Florida, embarked on what was meant to be an ordinary fishing trip from Jupiter Inlet on July 24, 2015. Their families, close friends for years, often bonded over their shared love for the sea. Perry and Austin, enthusiastic about fishing and boating, were excited as they set out on the calm waters. Unbeknownst to them, a storm was brewing on the horizon, changing their lives forever. As they ventured further into the ocean, the peaceful day turned dark, leading to a heartbreaking mystery that still haunts their loved ones and the community. The boys' families expected them to return by nightfall, but the boat was caught as the storm rolled in. The Coast Guard launched a massive search operation, checking tens of thousands of miles of ocean, but there was no sign of the boys or their boat. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into months. The families were left with only questions and a deepening sense of worry. Initially, the families were hopeful that Perry and Austin would be found safe and sound. However, as the search efforts continued and no signs of the boys or their boat were found, concern turned to despair. Perry's mother, Pamela Cohen, was particularly devastated. She felt that the Stefanos family had disregarded her explicit instructions that Perry was not allowed to go out on the water unsupervised. She had trusted that the Stefanos family would respect her wishes. Still, Austin's mother had permitted the boys to take her boat out, knowing that Perry was not allowed to be unsupervised. About a year later, the boat was found approximately 100 miles off Bermuda. When the ship was finally found, it was discovered in a disabled state, with the engine turned off and the propeller removed. This suggested an intentional action rather than a mere accident. The discovery of the boys' boat, capsized and abandoned off the coast of Bermuda, only added to the mystery. A water-damaged iPhone belonging to Austin and other personal items were found on board. Still, the boys themselves were nowhere to be seen. Additionally, Austin had sent a Snapchat message to his friends earlier on the day of their disappearance, which read, "We're Father, screwed." Some have interpreted this message as a sign that the boys know about their dire situation. As the investigation continued, suspicions of foul play began to surface. The family's relationships began to sour, and accusations flew back and forth. Perry's family, particularly his mother Pamela, grew increasingly frustrated with the lack of progress in the investigation. She began questioning the Stefanos family's version of events, wondering if they were hiding something. Carl Stefanos, Austin's father, felt the accusations were unfair. He believed they were all victims of a tragic accident, and that the focus should be on finding out what happened to the boys, not placing blame. The recovered iPhone became a point of contention. Pamela Cohen felt that the Stefanos family had taken too long to deliver it to the authorities, potentially compromising valuable evidence. The strain on the family's relationships was beginning to show. What was once a close-knit community was now divided, with each side questioning the other's motives and actions. The investigation continued, with authorities exploring new leads and interviewing witnesses who claimed to have seen the boys' boat on the day they disappeared. As the search efforts continued, a pilot came forward, claiming to have spotted one of the boys floating on debris in the ocean. The pilot reported that the boy raised his hands, suggesting a distress signal. However, by the time the authorities arrived at the location, there was no sign of the boy or the debris. This sighting added to the family's emotional turmoil, raising hopes that the boys might still be alive, only to have them dashed again. The investigation team pursued this lead, but it yielded no concrete evidence. One of the most haunting aspects of the case is Perry's last text message to his mother, Pamela Cohen. At 11:33 a.m. on July 24, 2015, Perry texted, "I love you, Mum," in response to a message from Pamela. This was Perry's last communication, leaving Pamela wondering if her son had a sense of foreboding, or if it was simply a coincidence. In 2018, a judge ruled that the Stefanos family was not liable for the boys' disappearance. The Cohens appealed the decision, but it was upheld. The legal battles only added to the family's pain and suffering. The case of Perry Cohen and Austin Stefanos remains one of Florida's most baffling mysteries. The boys' disappearance has left a lasting impact on their families and the community, with many still searching for answers. In the summer of 1991, on July 19th, 12-year-old Jared Negrete set off on an eagerly anticipated camping trip with his Boy Scout troop to Mount San Gorgonio in the San Bernardino National Forest, California. The excursion promised a fun adventure for the enthusiastic scouts, filled with the excitement of exploring the great outdoors. Jared, full of anticipation, joined his friends, unaware that this trip would become a haunting chapter in his life story. The journey, meant to foster camaraderie and teach valuable skills, took an unexpected turn, leaving a community searching for answers and a family clinging to hope. As they progressed, Jared fell behind his group while hiking due to his body weight, which prevented him from moving at the same pace as the others. Soon enough, another group of hikers spotted him straying from the trail around 6 p.m. The experienced leader, the Scoutmaster, was alerted and decided to pick Jared up on his way down. However, when he descended to meet Jared, he was nowhere to be found. The Scoutmaster immediately took the troop back to base camp and hiked 5 miles in the dark to get help. At 10,000 feet, searchers found a footprint that matched Jared's high-top shoe, beef jerky, candy wrappers, and a camera. The camera contained 12 photos, including a haunting self-portrait of Jared. Search teams combed the mountain, using helicopters, horses, and infrared technology to scan the terrain. But despite their efforts, no signs of Jared were found. As the search continued, the Negrete family waited anxiously for news. Jared's parents, Felipe and Linda, remained at their home in El Monte, while nearly a dozen uncles and cousins gathered near the search area. According to Felipe, the family has been having a terrible time since Jared's disappearance. Despite extensive efforts by 3,000 people over the space of 2 weeks, Jared's remains were never found. The monitors were installed at high points on the mountain, hoping to spot Jared in the dark. However, only deer and other animals were detected. Numerous speculations were made about Jared's disappearance, including a fall, bear attack, or abduction. However, no conclusive evidence supported any of these claims. The case remained a mystery, leaving the Negrete family with unanswered questions. 10 years after Jared's disappearance, his family still sought closure. On July 19, 2001, Felipe Negrete returned to Mount San Gorgonio, following his son's path. He prayed and left a memorial, hoping to find peace. But the mystery of Jared's disappearance continued to haunt the family. In 2001, another boy, 16-year-old William Parvin, went missing in the same area. The Negretes watched the news, reliving the trauma of their own experience. Linda Negrete found herself dusting off the piece of wood Jared had carved his name into, running her fingers over the crude letters. The family gazed at Jared's portrait over the fireplace, wondering what he would look like today and what he would be doing if he were still alive. To this day, the case of Jared's mysterious disappearance remains unsolved. On April 4, 2001, Kimyala Henson, a 21-year-old mother, set out from Portland, Oregon, with her daughters, Shayna Kirkpatrick, 2, and Shausha Henson, 3 months old, after being invited on a vacation by a friend. Kimyala had planned a road trip to British Columbia, Canada, with her friend Christina Meyer and Maya's husband Frank Ehring. However, unknown to Kimyala, Ehring was a fugitive from Missouri with a violent past who was wanted by the police for the attempted murder of his ex-wife and with ties to a satanic group. Meyer had introduced Ehring as her husband, using the alias Curtis. The group stopped in California, where Kimyala obtained her birth certificate. They spent the night at the Shasta Lodge in Redding and briefly stopped in Sacramento, likely to retrieve Kimyala's birth certificate in preparation for their trip to Canada. As they continued their journey, Kimyala's mother died in Portland, but when family members tried to contact her to inform her of the news, they were unable to reach her. It was as if Kimyala and the girls had vanished. On April 20, 2001, Maya and Ehring were found at a rest stop in Collier County, Florida, in an apparent killing and apparent self-inflicted death. Ehring had shot Maya before turning the gun on himself. Though he was still alive when the deputy found him, he later died at a hospital in Naples. Still, there was no sign of Kimyala or the girls. An investigation later revealed that Maya had assumed Kimyala's identity and used her credit cards to purchase gasoline and food. A blood-stained hatchet was also found in the car, with only Kimyala's blood on it. It became clear that Maya and Ehring's intentions were evil, but the fate of Kimyala and the girls remained unknown. On April 28, 2001, Kimyala's body was discovered near Nixon, Nevada, showing signs of brutal violence, including blunt force trauma and gunshot wounds. The discovery of her body raised more questions on the whereabouts of Shayna and Shausha, and whether Maya and Ehring had harmed them or they were still alive. The investigation continued, with authorities searching for any leads on the girls' whereabouts. Motel receipts indicated that Maya and Ehring had traveled to Florida alone, without the girls. The car seats and birth certificates of Shayna and Shausha were never found, leaving authorities wondering if they had been sold or harmed. As the search for the girls continued, their family and authorities were left with a sense of desperation and uncertainty. The case of Shayna and Shausha's disappearance has been met with widespread media attention and public outcry. The FBI and local authorities have worked tirelessly to follow up on every lead, but so far, none have yielded any concrete evidence of the girls' whereabouts. Stephen Kirkpatrick, Shayna, and Shausha's father have vocalized their desire for answers and hope that their daughters will be alive. He has worked closely with authorities and has appealed to the public for any information that might lead to their safe return. As the years have passed, the case has gone cold, but their family and the community continue to hold out hope that one day they will be reunited with the two young girls who vanished under such mysterious and sinister circumstances. In June 1969, the Martin family embarked on their annual Father's Day camping trip to the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. The trip was a beloved tradition, and 6-year-old Dennis Martin was excited to join his father, grandfather, and brother on the adventure. When they got to the park, they met with family and friends and proceeded to Spence Field together. As they reached Spence Field, the boys were allowed to play together while the adults settled and took in the beautiful view. Dennis and his brother joined 2 other boys, and their father, William, watched as they laughed and played. Dennis and the boys hatched a plan to hide and surprise their parents. They snuck away, giggling and whispering, to find the perfect spot to conceal themselves in the woods. William's instincts tell him something is wrong when Dennis doesn't emerge from the woods with the older boys to surprise them. He quickly organized a search party, and they combed through the woods, calling out Dennis's name. But as they searched, the dense foliage and rugged terrain made it difficult to cover much ground. As night began to fall, William's grandfather, Clyde, hiked 9 miles to the Cades Cove Ranger Station to alert authorities. The park rangers quickly sprang into action, mobilizing a search party that would grow to include hundreds of volunteers. The search effort was extensive, with teams scanning the woods for any sign of Dennis. The following day, the search effort intensified, with helicopters and planes joining the hunt. The National Park Service deployed its entire staff, and volunteers poured in from surrounding towns. But despite the massive effort, no sign of Dennis was found. Various suspicions began to emerge. Some speculated that Dennis had wandered off and gotten lost, while others believed he must have fallen prey to hungry animals in the woods. The family received tips and sightings, but none panned out. One man even came forward, claiming to have seen someone carrying a red object on their shoulder, hurrying away from the area. He believed it might have been Dennis, as the boy wore a red shirt. However, the claim was dismissed due to the distance from which the man claimed to have seen the occurrence, making it unreliable. As the search entered its 2nd week, the sense of desperation grew. Years went by, but the Martin family never gave up hope. They continued to search for Dennis, exploring the woods and following up on every lead. In 1985, a hunter reported finding a child's skeleton in the woods, but it was never confirmed to be Dennis. As time passed, the hope of finding Dennis alive faded, and it became clear that the chances of his survival were nearly impossible. This grim realization led to the heartbreaking decision to end the search for the missing boy.